Welcome to the Arthropologist. I'm really excited today. I have a review that I want to do on a hat that I purchased. Well, it's now been probably about a month ago, but and I wanted to wear it for a while so that I could give you an honest review. Now, this review is not sponsored in any means. Of course, any manufacturer who wants to send me something to review, I will not turn it down. But in this particular case, it's not sponsored, so it's absolutely just my honest assessment and view of the product. Now, if you clicked on it, you know what it is. It is the Stetson Seneca Cowboy hat. So let's get right into it. And I will look over occasionally because I got my cheat sheet over here. This, by the way, is the hat. Is a hat that I wear in my studio all the time. I don't like to not wear a hat. Anyway, this is the Stetson Seneca. It is a 4X silver sand, 3.5-inch brim, 7.25-inch size. Now, I'm going to pull it out, and we can talk about the different stats on it. Well, first of all, it's a beautiful, beautiful hat. I mean, it really, really is. The color silver sand. One of the reasons why I bought this hat was that I wanted a really pretty summer hat for going to church or going to really nice events. And I had thought about a silver belly, and I really want to get a silver belly, but the style of the hat was that they had wasn't what I wanted. And when I saw this, I just really fell in love with it. And one of the reasons why it's appropriate for me to be wearing this fedora is to show you one of the things that attracted me to it. The style of the crown is it makes a big difference in the look of the hat. The cattleman's crease, and let me show you that. This is my straw hat. Also from Cavender's. I do buy a lot of stuff from Cavender's. Again, it's not sponsored. They're just a great store. But this is the cattleman's crease. You've got that notch right there, and then you've got the pinch on either side. And then here, you've got the pinch that comes more to a point, and then you've got a teardrop. And there are different shapes up here that you can shape the hat. It can be more round, like a gambler style, and there's a number of different terminologies for this, but I just really like it. They're very, very similar, although this does, again, this hat's 37 years old, so it's lost a lot of its shape. I believe at one time it was a little more of a teardrop like this, but, you know, after 37 years, it's showing some age. So, let me put this thing on. I mean, it's just a beautiful classic hat. And let me tell you a few things, continue on about some of the reasons I bought it. First of all, I live in Jackson, Mississippi, which can arguably be considered the seersucker capital of the world. And I go to men's channels, men's clothing channels, and they'll talk about, you know, one option you can have during the summers, guys, if you want to be physically cool, not just, be cool like the fines, but actually be physically not as hot, is to wear seersucker if you are brave enough to pull it off. And that's always funny to me because at my church, it's just, that's very common here in Mississippi and Jackson in particular. So I wanted to have something that would go along with it, and most of my hats were either olive, dark brown, I have a black, and I wanted something for son to go to meeting. And this is just absolutely lovely. It's not as light as a silver belly, but especially in the sun, it can actually kind of appear to be that way. Now, a lot of guys, if you're new to cowboy hats, they can be kind of big. You know, they've got the big brims, and although the crown, you sort of feel like they're tall, they're not really as tall as you think. For instance, the crown on this fedora, I think is 4.5 inches. Well, that's the same height as this, and I believe it's the same height as the crown on this straw hat. But the difference is this has a 3.25 inch brim, or 2.5 inch brim. I'm sorry. And why guesstimate when you can measure? Yep, 2.5. So this has got a 2.5 inch brim. This has a 3.25 inch brim. This is a 4.5 inch brim. Lots of cowboy hats have 4.5 inch brims. And if you're new to cowboy hats, that may be a little overwhelming. It just may just feel too big. And so if you're trying to ease into it, or if you're like me, if I'm going to be inside, or if I'm not working outside, I just don't want something that's that big, that takes up that much territory. Now, if you do, that's fine. You do you and you have fun. But for me, I want something more understated and subtle, and that's what this is. Also, the roll of the brim is, again, very subtle. My taste tends toward classic look, classical men's style. And so one of the hallmarks of a classical men's style is that everything is subtle, understated. And so you don't want something that's just really loud. And I love the simple band. It's just got a simple leather band, real thin. I do tend to like a little bit thicker with the conch medallions. I can't remember what they're called. Eventually, I'm probably going to get that so I can swap out. And that's something just as extra. If you've got a hat, but you want it to look different at different times, you can dress a hat up or down by changing the hat band on it. And you know, you could put a sort of an Indian patterned weave up here, and that would really make it far more what's the word? It's not as formal and dressy. It'd be just more for about town. I can't think of the word right now. Casual. It would just be more casual. But something like this that's real simple and plain, or something with the medallions, that's going to dress it up. And so you could actually have the same hat, 2 or 3 different brands, hat bands, and really make a difference. This hat is in the Buffalo collection of Stetson. They've got 8 hats, last I understand the research I've done. They've got 8 hats that are in the Buffalo collection, and the Buffalo collection is made from buffalo wool. Technically, again, as I understand, I don't pretend to be an expert on all of this, but this is technically not a felt hat, but a wool hat. It comes from the wool of the American buffalo. And I know, you know, they're not really buffalo, they're bison. But first of all, we don't have bison Bill Cody. We've got buffalo Bill Cody, so that kind of settles it for me right there. But, you know, it's called the buffalo, and that's what we're going to stick with. The buffalo fur is soft. This is a really soft feeling, not soft as far as bent pliability is concerned. This has been, I don't know what they put in it, probably shellac or something, or lacquer probably, that will stiffen these hats up. So the hat itself is somewhat stiff, but it's still soft to the touch. And that's sort of a hallmark of buffalo wool as I understand it. It is a less, I say less expensive, cheaper, not cheaper as far as necessarily the quality, but it's a lesser expense hat that than would be beaver felt. And the reason is beaver felt is far higher quality. It's also harder to get. You know, beaver averages about 40 pounds. A really big beaver can be 70 pounds, but for the most part, they're around 40 pounds. Your average American buffalo is between 700 and 2,000 pounds, and they shed that wool, like 20 pounds of that wool every year, so they can get a mass of it and make a hat out of it. The wool, you know, is supposed to be very, very soft, and it's also quite durable and fairly water resistant. Again, not as much as beaver, but you know, it's still a really nice hat. This is, let me check, I don't want to fib. This is a 4X. 4X is decent. I think you've actually got to get up to 10X or higher. The X's are very confusing. I mean, you'll see 100X and I think even hundreds of X's. It used to be, as I understand, that a 100X was 100% beaver fur. Even that wasn't totally true because you've got to mix in some other things like beaver, I mean like rabbit, to even it out, to make it a little more structurally sound. But that was your purest form of hat, and it was top of the line. And so the fewer X's you had, the less of a blend it was. Now with 4X, that's ever how much buffalo is in it, and then you've got rabbit and other things, and so there you go. The hat is not, for a dress hat, a nice dress hat from Stetson or from any of the brands, it's not that terribly expensive. It was $170. The next up, when you start going 5, 6, 8X or whatever, those kind of start, last I checked, was closer to $300. So it's a significant jump from the 4X on up there. So I didn't want to spend that much right now, so I bought this. I absolutely love it. It does come supposedly very water resistant, but I don't have it with me, but I bought, hold on, I'm gonna go get it. Okay, I'm back, and I'm really glad that I went to the back and got this because it's something really important to talk about. Okay, so you buy this beautiful hat and you want to take care of it. Well, first of all, don't buy a hat you're not willing to wear. There are lots of guys that they'll go out and they'll buy a hat like this, or they'll buy a suit or something, and then they leave it in the box, leave it in the closet, and you ask them why, and well, I don't want to get it dirty, or I don't want to mess it up. Well, there's no point in having it if you're not going to wear it. So wear it, but just be careful with it. Like I said, I may have said this in another video, I bought this hat, which is what I wear in my studio for the most part, 37 years ago. And it's still, you know, I've worn the devil out of it. It's faded, but it's still, you know, in relatively good shape. With this hat, some things to keep in mind. That this silver sand or a buckskin type color actually is harder to clean and maintain than if you got a whitish silver belly. It's just the color tends to be, apparently, this is what they told me, that it's just harder to match and harder to clean. Well, okay, all right, well, I'll just deal with it. That's part of it. But a few products. Twister. Again, Twister's not sponsoring this, so you're getting my honest assessment of it. Costs $9. And what this is, looks like a pepper shaker. And if you get a stain or something like this on your hat, you can take and shake this out. It's like a powder, and you just rub it into that area and let it sit. You want to get it on your hat as quickly as you can, because I grew up with a mechanic, and so with mechanics, they've always got this gravel grit looking stuff that they pour out when they spill oil, and it absorbs the oil, and then they sweep it up and throw it away. From what I understand, that's what this is supposed to do, is that it reaches down into the fibers and draws out any stains, like Coca-Cola or something like that that's spattered up on it. And we'll draw it out, and then hopefully you can brush it off, and it'll look relatively new, if not new. Fortunately, I have not had to use this, but you don't want to go and pay several hundred, $200, $300, $400, $500 for a hat, get a stain, and now you're running all over town looking for something to clean it with. It's better to go on and have it, and $9 is not a big investment. So you have that, and then you have your brush. And I have two of these. These are, I think, horsehair brushes. I bought them on Amazon. They're a no-name brand that it was $9 for two of them. And the way you'd care for this hat is when you get through wearing it, to prevent moths or moths from getting on it, because they'll lay eggs. It's the eggs that actually hatch, and the larva is what actually eats the wool and linen and stuff like that. It's not the moths themselves. So if you wear a hat and you brush it off before you put it on your do this before you put it in your box or put it away, then you should have dusted everything off, and it should be fine. Also, you're getting any loose dirt, pollen, just debris that blows around in the air, and you're just getting it off your hat so that it looks nice and for your next time. So I've got these. Always buy two. You can buy one with a dark hair and the other are bristles, and one with a light hair, so that you can keep track, but it doesn't matter. It's just that keeps track for you. I actually just wrote light and my other one dark. The reason that you don't want to get the two overlapping is that anytime you dust off a hat or a suit or anything and it's got lint on it, then some of that lint's going to be caught up in the bristles. Well, if you brush off a light colored hat and it's got light colored lint on it, and then you go to brush off your dark colored hat, you're going to transfer some of that lint. It can come off. You can brush it and maybe even have to vacuum it, but it's a hassle. Why do that when you can just use two different hats and not worry about it? Same thing if you brush off your dark hat and then you go to brush off your light colored hat, you're going to transfer dark lint. So it just saves yourself from being in a hassle. The next product that I would suggest you buying is, again, Twister. I do have a lot of Bic products for my boots and other stuff, and they're real good. It's just, this was recommended, Twister was recommended. I started using it, and so far it ain't broke, so I ain't fixing it. I like this, I've used it, and I'll tell you what you want and what you want to be looking for. This is a felt hat protector, water repellent. Now, when you buy any good hat like this, or your higher X's, it's supposed to come waterproof. But if you want to step it up and be a little more protective, I buy something like this. Take the hat off, shake it up real good, and then hold it about 6 inches away. And don't douse it, don't let it be running, but just do a light coat. Sort of like painting, better to do 2 or 3 light coats than one heavy. Spray it all the way around, crown, brim, even under the brim. Don't do inside, but even under the brim, the bottom of the brim. And that's going to add a layer of protection, both from water and, more importantly, from other stains, so that if you're somewhere and, I don't know, beer, Coca-Cola, something that could possibly stain, if you sprayed your hat down, you've got that extra layer of protection that might be the difference between a really difficult or impossible stain and something that comes right out. So again, I think this, I don't see the price, but it was like 10 bucks and maybe 15. Well worth it. It'll last you for a long, long time. This is my second can. I have sprayed probably 10 or 12 hats worth. So you can get a lot out of it. Number one, I will tell you this works. I've got a black wool hat that I have worn in torrential rain. It is a 42-year-old hat, that 42-year-old Bailey hat. And I wore it out working a lot. And I would spray this thing down, spray it, let it dry for 5 minutes, spray it again, put 2 or 3 light coats. Let me tell you something, I have been in torrential rains that it would soak in eventually, but it really protected the hat so that it didn't lose its shape. I won't get all into it, but this stuff works. The other thing that's super important is all of these come with a warning that it could cause dyes that aren't set to run. And you don't want to have a hat that you just paid for, that you spray and all of a sudden the color is not stable and starts running and streaking. If the color is stable, this supposedly will not hurt it. And I will tell you, I have sprayed brown, black, olive, silver sand, gray, all different brands, Bailey, Stetson, just a bunch. And so far, no issues with this lifting or damaging the colors in any manner. So that's why I stick with this and won't ever change. Now, shaping your hat. Felt hats are shapeable. Get a steamer. A lot of people say put it over you can put it over a tea kettle. They just don't put out enough steam for me. Seems like a lot more effort than it's really worth. I looked up online, and for around $100, you can get an inexpensive steamer. Now, it's not going to be like what you'll see at Cavender's or Boots and More, something like that. I mean, they've got an industrial steamer that will really do the job. But I've got just an inexpensive, like say $80 to $100 one, and I've used it to reshape a number of hats. And I did reshape this one a little bit. Now, you could reshape the crown and everything, and eventually I might do that. Might make the pinch a little more prominent, might make the crease here, like with my fedora. I do like, you can see the difference. It's a much more pronounced crease in the center and pinch. And I don't know, the hat's new. It's just a few months old, so I'm not going to fuss with it right now. But it's something I might do. But when I bought it, it was not exactly the right size comfort-wise. Everyone's head is shaped differently. You've got long ovals and short ovals, and nobody's head is really truly round. It's oval shaped, but it varies. Well, if you buy a hat, lots of manufacturers, they just have one standard oval and that's what you get. But you can reshape the hat. But here's what you got to understand. If you do reshape it, take it and apply heat, the steam to it, keep it moving all around the hat, do it on top, and you can do it around here, but do not get it in here. Don't let your sweatband, your leather sweatband, don't get it real hot and wet, because that can eventually lead to cracking and misshaping and shrinking and just a mess. So you don't want to do that. And up here in this pretty new satin, it's really not going to get through to this anyway. So you'd have to take that out if you were going to reshape the top, but we won't get into that. Anyway, if you're going to reshape it, some things to keep in mind. You are not going to turn a 7 1/4 inch hat into a 7 1/2. If you've got a 7 1/2 inch head and you pick up a 7 1/4 inch hat, you're not going to stretch that into something that's going to fit you. Instead, what you're going to do is, if it's possible, you're going to actually reshape it. And the way to know if that's possible is to stick your fingers in the sides of the hat. That's what I did with this one. I put it on and it was a little tight, so it was a narrower oval than what my head is. So when I put it on, it was tight in back, which really wasn't uncomfortable, but it was pressing on my forehead. And that can start giving you a headache and be very uncomfortable. So what I did was, when I sprayed it, or when I steamed it, I just pulled it. Just started pulling a little bit, just got in there and stretched it out. Then I put it on my head and I wore it for a few hours so that as it dried, it would begin to conform to my head. Now, what I had done was I was able to actually take my 2 fingers on both sides and stick up in the hat where you can see and kind of do it a little bit, not much. That's because it was a wide oval, and when I stretched it, it got narrower and longer. So you didn't get any extra cubic inches. All you did was change the shape of those cubic inches. So when I stretched it, there's not any room here for my fingers to go. But I knew that it was there from the beginning, so I had some room to play. So when you get a hat, if you put it on, it's a little bit tight in the front and back. If you can stick your fingers in there, you got room to play. But if you can't do it. The main reason why the hat itself is actually very flexible, but it's the sweatband that's on the inside. That leather sweatband, it's not really terribly flexible, and they kind of have a memory, and if you do something with it, they kind of want to go back where they were. So even if you get that leather to stretch, chances are you get hot, you get sweaty, you get it wet, and it's going to want to shrink back down to where it was. So it's going to be a continual fight. So that's where just reshaping it as opposed to actually trying to re-stretch it is what you want to do. Did that. The last thing that I'll talk about is how to properly store and put your hat down. You always want to put your hat down. If you're going to take it off and you're in church, like when I'm at church, I take it off, I put it on the pew beside me, or just anywhere, you set it crown down. You don't ever set it brim down. The reason being twofold. Number one, especially if it's ever wet, you never want to store a wet hat down like this because it will cause the brim to droop. The other thing is most of these hats have a scoop to it, which if you set it down, it's going to take that scoop and flatten it out. So you want to turn it over so that gravity is working with you, pulling this, pulling the sides of your brim down. And I mean, you can see that nice, pretty scoop right there. Well, you don't want to flatten that out. So if you set this down, you're not messing with that scoop at all. It does have a lovely satin liner, so that's real pretty. Got a pretty, let's see, real pretty buckle for the hat band. Again, leather sweatband. If you're not used to leather sweatbands, when they start out, they're not as comfortable. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. Leather touching your skin as opposed to cloth is going to be a little more uncomfortable, but it becomes comfortable, and it'll stay on your head better because it grips a little bit more snug and secure. But that's just a part of it. But I think that's about everything. I do really like this hat. I do get a lot of compliments on it, and if you do decide that you want to get something that's a lighter color and you don't want to go white or silver belly, then you can go light gray. You can go something like this, which is again, silver sand, which under the right lighting conditions, if it's outside and it really sun's bright, it actually looks like a silver belly. So it's just a lovely, lovely hat. I have thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think that probably if you decide you want one, you're going to enjoy it too. So that's about it for this review. If you like what you've heard, please give me a thumbs up. Feel free to share this with anyone. And lastly, I'll just say this is an art channel, and I deal with the arts in all of its different permutations, and men's fashion is something that I care a lot about. How you look says a lot about yourself, and it also it projects out how you feel about yourself. And you know, if you're going out in public, you gotta wear clothes. And if you're gonna wear clothes, why not wear clothes that look good, that make you look good, that make you feel good about yourself? And so going out, you don't have to spend a tremendous amount of money, but spending wisely, spending well, getting something that's nice, that's going to last, that's going to look good, it's going to make you feel better when you go outside. So I wanted to put that in. That's a part of the art world is how you dress and how you express yourself. So I guess that's enough for this review. I've enjoyed it. I hope you have too. If you've enjoyed this episode of The Arthropologist, please hit the like button. And if you'd like to see more episodes like this, think about subscribing.